Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Curvin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. We are on to episode 53 today.
53. Hold on, I got to get my notes.
While you get your notes, I will expound. No, I will not expound on the. I don't know the numerology of 53.
Is 53 prime? Nothing becomes 53.
I believe 53 is prime, yeah. So, well, prime numerology. Real numbers, I would tell my math students, all real numbers are prime numbers. Everything else is a compound number made up of prime numbers. They loved that. No, they hated that, but...
They hated that. I love it.
Well, I was trying to make their division and multiplication easier. Especially division. Like if you prime factor numbers that you're dividing and then just you get to cross things out. Like how much fun is that?
Yeah, it's lovely. Do it with 53.
Just cross, you know, and suddenly your division problem is a lot less complicated than you thought it was. And then you just multiply out. So you don't actually have to do division. You prime factor. Well, I guess prime factoring is technically division, but you prime factor, you cross things out and you multiply at the end. And you're guaranteed to have the lowest, most reduced fraction possible. You don't have to reduce any further.
Welcome to episode 53.
Yes.
I love us.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just, they teach math wrong. They teach math wrong. They teach geometry wrong. They do it in the wrong order. And this is why people don't do math in our culture, because they have made it so weird and they teach you one thing and then they unteach you it and then they teach you something different and they unteach you it. It's ridiculous. It's so much wasted effort.
I had in ninth grade, I had a 99 for the year in Algebra 1. The next year, I was a sophomore, and that's the year I came out, so I had a lot of stuff going on, and I was distracted, and, you know, things were not great. But in geometry, for the year, I got an 88. Junior year, third year, I took Algebra 2 and got a 77. Do you see what's happening here?
Yes, I see what's happening.
The only class I ever failed was my senior year when I took trigonometry, and I made a 66.
Trigonometry, don't even get me started.
I don't even know what that is. That one's for triangles or something?
Yeah, it's like the next level of geometry, but again, they don't so a square root, right? Like they teach you squares and square roots, but they teach you like it's this abstract concept that numbers just do, like properties. A square root is the area of a square compared to its side. So the square root of 8, right? And the square root of 16, they're just squares with an area, and then you count up the length of the sides. So you have 16. If you have 16 small squares and a big square, you've got 4 on each side.
Mm-hmm.
And then the triangle a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right?
Mm-hmm. It's
just the area of two squares adding up to the area of a third square, and you can create the squares and then go work backward. Like geometry is before algebra. Geometry came first. And then algebra is the language that describes geometry.
Why? Okay, so Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, trigonometry is completely out of order.
Completely out of order. The concepts of squares and square roots were created by geometric figuring, which was done by the Greeks. And then algebra is a later addition by the Muslims and the Hindu, like over in India area.
But they had as a concept for zero.
They did, and they also started to represent the concepts of geometry as symbols to make it easier to talk about it. But it's like a language. You didn't learn the vowels, and now you're suddenly thrown into sentences.
Mm-hmm. So it should have been geometry, trigonometry, algebra 1, algebra 2?
Kind of. Trig gets a little out there and complex, but like you shouldn't talk about squares and squares roots without literally showing squares. Right? You literally need to show the square so you understand the relationship between a squared number and its square root, because it's a 1-to-1.
I know in ninth grade for Algebra 1, Miss Peavy, she required us to learn the first 25 squares. So I knew them all the way up to 25 squared at one point, 625, I think. The way you have to learn your 12 times 12 tables throughout, lower grades. Now, when I was doing it, that was 1990, 91. She wanted us to just outright memorize the first 25 squares.
That I hate that multiplication tables. Like I hate all of that. I think it's and the problem is that, like I don't want to demean teachers. Teachers are wonderful people and really do dedicate their lives, especially for low pay, to doing what they do. But education, like Western education, is drawn from extremely left-brained thinking that is very reductive. And remember, like it was set up to be rote learning for agrarian societies, and it just never really broke free of that. Even after we stopped being agrarian, we moved to city living and industrial living. School never stopped being that sort of rudimentary reading, writing, arithmetic vibe.
I saw a math quiz for a fifth grader from like 1902, and I couldn't do it. It was all this conversion, and I didn't even know what some of the units were. If you had to get from a bushel to something else, and I was looking at this, I was like, "What?" And there was a lot of complicated multiplication and division, and I mean, all sorts of stuff going on back and forth and back and forth. I was like, "This is insane! This is a fifth grade math test from 100 years ago. I can't even do it."
Well, and then now they've come up with new math where they they've tried to go back to the way that it used to be, but like still made it complicated and overly tenuous and no.
Well, they were adding stuff together, taking stuff off, putting it back together. It's like I don't remember which child I was talking to. I don't really know many children. Ugh. And this child was explaining math to me. I was like, you did what? You could just do blah, blah, blah and be done. It's like they haven't gone through 18 steps you could just 9 times 7 is 63. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Anyway, I think we'll move on from this topic. Maybe it'll come back up. Maybe what's the intersection for math in your deck?
For math?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or did math just completely escape your deck because you hated it so much?
I don't know that math necessarily has anything specific to do with anything. I imagine it would be somewhere up in the water section if it's there at all.
I was gonna say third eye and like throat, maybe.
What's the intersection for frustration?
Oh,
there's something, and the opening haiku of the water section, number 36, is my personal favorite, and that one has to do with chunking letters together in a way that reveals and hides words. So in a sense, that might be kind of like math, in the sense that the way you look at the spatial relationships between the letters, you can find different words emerging.
Yeah, that counts. We'll take that.
So number 36 then.
Number 36. And 36 is a good number. I like 36.
It's a square.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Miss Peavy.
Let's roll some dice.
All right. The first deck will be number 2.
Number 2.
So literal profession. Okay, I have the deck here. The card will be number 12.
12.
So this will be in metal, an orange. Let's see, 12. Here we go. This is the visceral chakra, orange, metal. I feel and how it is impacted by third eye, blue, water, I see. So how your instincts and feelings and sensations are impacted by what you know and how you see and understand the world. And that profession is, I profess that I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others.
We've had this a few times.
That I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others. This is our mill spilling toxicity into the river.
Yes, yes. So bad teaching, spilling
yeah.
toxic math into children's streams. All right. Well, I mean, we've started. I think we've started here before as well. Like I think this has been a setting card. So obviously it's come back for some reason.
Well, we're coming through another time here. Every time we think we can't go any deeper, we do, where the disinformation just becomes more and more outlandish and just overt, and yet accepted to people who are targets for it. And we have to be very careful that the more information or disinformation is just spewed out by bots and bad actors, to just be aware of what you're consuming. Be aware of what you're letting into yourself. Use your instinct. If something doesn't feel right, examine it. Look at it again. This is the third eye. This is your instinct, your gut, interacting with your third eye. If your instinct is telling you something's off, look more closely.
I think there's also like a matter of training too. Like I'm in my doctoral program, and one of my compatriots is developing an app that sort of curates news for you and intends to get you off of scrolling. Like the intent of the app is to like sort of short circuit the scrolling, but it also has like a tailored sort of thing. And I was like, ooh, I wrote a story idea about what would happen if your entire life was a stream of things that were only things that you agreed with. Like there were only things that you believed, and like you would wear AR glasses, and people who didn't agree with you would just be like gray blobs.
Well, I mean, isn't that what we've already got?
Well, I was writing this like a decade ago before the algorithm really took over. But the idea was that if you filtered out everything that didn't agree with you, you would just be living in a very isolated, insular place where there was an echo chamber of things that reinforced your ideas and nothing that challenged them. And I talked to my compatriot about this, and they were like, oh no, like we have something where we want to challenge, like we'll add like a challenge thing. So before you're done, interacting with the app, there'll be something that challenges you in some way. I was like, okay, so I think, this scenario, this setting that we are dealing with, there's sort of a idea that you have to train yourself to look outside or to try to gather facts independently. We were talking before the show that like there was some information about the TikTok buyout, and then there were people on TikTok talking about it, and they were sort of telling a story, and some of the facts were there, but there were also elements of stuff that was conjecture, but it was presented as fact. And I think that's the danger of the information world that you just described, because you are getting what seem to be facts and what you agree with, because the algorithm knows what you agree with because you watch longer on it. So it feeds you more of what you watch. And then you have, like I have a friend that heard this, firmly believed that the US government was buying TikTok. And that's not the case, right? Like there could be an outsized influence that it has because of who's actually buying it, who's actually investing in it. Like there could be influence, but like the idea of the government buying it is just not true. Like that's false.
Can the government buy companies?
Not really. No. Like that's,
it doesn't seem right to me that I wasn't aware that the government bought companies.
Like there's nationalization of things that can occur. Like there are some things like, like they could nationalize a utility or something. But
it kind of flies in the face of what capitalism is supposed to be.
Exactly. And so, yes, we can be very worried about the influence that certain actors will have upon, something that is owned by people that agree with them. But the truth was that there were facts and then there were gaps, and people were filling in those gaps with conjecture, but treating them like facts, treating them like truth. And then people were imbibing this. And, especially if you trust the source, like if the source has given you facts in the past and you aren't aware of the conjecture points because you didn't go read the 5 news articles that all agreed on, the details,
Well, and if the conjecture is smooth and flows from some kind of logic and sounds reasonable, then it's easy to accept.
And the overall intention of it may end up being true, right? Like there are fears about what's going to happen, and there could very well be governmental influence on TikTok. So that's the problem too, is that they might be right, but they weren't truthful.
So then the concern and vis-a-vis TikTok is that people who do not agree with the administration might be censored, and people who do agree with the administration will be elevated and magnified. Is that the concern?
Even, I mean, it goes deeper than that. Like they're worried about, people being rooted out and exposed and, arrested and deported and whatever else, comes up. Like there's some very large fears involved in this. And like some of that could very well happen, right? Like we're in a place where it's really hard to know what's possible anymore, because things that seem like they should be impossible seem to be happening.
Well, with technology creating information that looks authentic, and then couple that with behavior that is so outrageous, it for me sometimes it's like the Twilight Zone, where it's like, this can't possibly be real, because that would require people to believe and accept the absurd. Mm-hmm. For example, Secretary Hegseth gave a speech the day in front of like 1,000 2, 3, 4-star generals, whatever, the highest of all of our commanding officers. They're all together in one place at one time for the first time in history, which seems very dangerous to me. If somebody were to blow that up, where they're all there, you just decapitate the entire armed forces. That just was a stupid thing to do. And I don't really watch the news because it's upsetting. And when I started reading people's response to this, I was like, there's absolutely no way that the secretary would get in front of a room of generals, and there's no way that he would get in front of a room full of generals and chastise them for being fat and telling them that they need to work harder. And it's like, this can't be real. So I went and looked for it and searched it out. And I found video of this man saying this stuff. And then the president telling people that they could applaud if they wanted to. It's like, what? They were stone-faced and they didn't like what was happening, and they were trying to be neutral because that's their job, in the military. And this was an overt attempt to politicize the armed forces. It's like, this can't be real, but it's absurd behavior, and it doesn't seem like it should be acceptable, and yet it's common now.
Well, I think you pointed a good point out, which is that we are being restrictive about what we intake. And that's the point of the card, right? Is you don't have to take in the toxicity of others.
No.
But we do isolate ourselves, like when we only, for instance, that video is not fake, right? A lot of us have seen it and it's been circulated widely. But there have been fake videos that completely speak to what I believe, that are very easy for me to go, oh, okay. And if I'm, quickly scrolling because I don't want to engage with the daily news because it is very upsetting, and I only get something that's fake that has truth to it that might be right, however it is, fake. And
how do you know the difference?
Exactly. So like there's this dichotomy that I'm feeling with this opening card, where it's like, yes, you need to protect your mental health. And if that means not watching the news every day, especially not watching cable news every day, then I totally get that. Like that sounds like a very healthy thing to do. But then are you only getting little snippets and little sound bites? And are you only getting them from something which is a product, right? So Instagram, TikTok, they're all products. They're all designed to make money. And how they make money is your attention.
Mm-hmm.
So they will reinforce things that you want to see and hear because you give your attention to them. And the more attention you give them, the more money that they can possibly make.
So the card says, I feel no obligation to drink the poisonous thoughts of others. Okay, so we're not gulping this down. We're not taking big drinks. But to your point, you need to be aware enough to understand the difference. So I'm not saying go sip it, but at least be, aware of what the aroma is.
Yeah, like you have to understand what's being poured.
Yeah.
Like you have to know what's going on at the bar.
And if you want to extend this metaphor, if you go to a wine tasting, you're not supposed to swallow every wine that you sample. You're supposed to spit it out into a swill bucket. Okay, taste it. Okay, that's what that is. Okay, blah. Don't need to take that in. And then you know which bottle you want to buy and take home with you. You don't guzzle everything down that comes across your lips. You're aware of the,
sampling. You're aware of what's happening. So I think there's this idea of keeping healthy practices, right? Keeping healthy routines, but not isolating and insulating yourself so much that you are preyed upon by the same problem, right? Like we could become the toxic things that we're trying to get away from. Just someone's flipped the script on it, and now it sounds like something that we agree with. Yeah. And it creates more and more dichotomy. And this is like that world that I was writing. I don't know if I'll come back to it. It was an interesting idea. It actually was AI based, which I think is funny because now we're into an AI world. But it was AI based, and the AI was basically, in order to protect children, is where it started. In order to protect children, it kept like negative messages away from them. So like filtered their internet. Mm-hmm. But then they became reliant on the AI part of it. And so as they grew up, they just kept it. And it kept defending them by blocking out things that were upsetting or dangerous. But then, it also started to understand like where the peak performance of your life was going to be. And, in order to keep you the most safe, right? That word started to morph and change and mean other things. And then of course the AI had a level of sentience to it as well, but it was, it was restrained by this idea about blocking things, but it literally felt like, because you wore glasses, so it literally filtered your reality. So you only saw people that you should meet based on your likes. And if you shouldn't interact with someone because they have an opposing viewpoint and that would upset you, you don't see them. They're just like little gray inconsequential blobs of people walking past. So you literally only see the faces of people that are also within this, homogenized subgroup that you have worked your way into based on your likes and dislikes.
When I was trying to confirm that the speeches that happened before the generals, I started looking to see where else this might have been reproduced and reported, and I started finding it in lots of places. So I started to feel comfortable that it was real. I stumbled across a video on YouTube, and it had a little warning flash across the beginning that the video had been funded in part or wholly by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I was like, oh, this should be interesting. It only stayed up for about 3 seconds, but I did see it. I was like, okay, you only want that to be up for 3 seconds. I gotcha. So let me see what this is going to be. Oh my God. I can't believe that people watch this stuff. It had like hundreds of thousands of views. I'm just like, surely not. And they had this American expert on, and the interviewer was asking the deep questions. Anyway, the American, with a completely straight face and bold and serious and earnest, he said that was the most important military speech since General Patton. And I spat my water out. I was just laughing. I was like, how can people think and speak? He can't possibly believe that. He's just saying that for the money. There's no way he can possibly believe that what I saw in that video was the best military speech since World War II. I don't believe he believes that. I think that's cynical. It's just, I didn't, the cat ran out the room. I was cackling like a witch. There was water everywhere.
So we have a dualistic issue, right? We've got, don't just guzzle poison, but maybe you do need to taste it from time to time.
Read the label. Read the label. If it was funded in part or in fooled by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then just know that. Read the label.
All right, I'm going to pull a card.
Right.
Let's see where we're going to go from here. Getting a lot of energy today. Like this card wants to come out. Oh, so this is the Ace of Waves. So we're second chakra. This is the Ace. So this is the first ripple.
So pay attention. Keep paying attention.
I gotta go to my book because I don't always remember the aces. So the Ace of Waves. Emotions are flowing and connected. A connected mind and soul that overflows with sensation and emotion. There is a sense of self-unity that connects body, sensation, and emotion. If you believe in divinity and the numinous, then this is a unity with that energy. As above, so below. Crown to root, you are aligned and overflowing with energy, creative and emotional. Like the ripple in a pond, this is the start of surges to come. And here it is, the tiniest of drops that can become the mightiest of waves. Everything is connected, one to the other, and all of that sensation, pleasure, creativity begins just like this, a little ripple across the surface.
Okay, well, that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Within the context of the first card, how are you seeing a bridge between the first card into this reiteration about instinct and sensation?
Well, water's there too, right? So the element for my second chakra is water. And we talked about poison, right? We talked about drinking and imbibing. I think.
Wait, so you just doubled my card?
Yeah.
So sacrum and water that was your intersection for sacrum and water?
Well, technically, this is an intersection. This is just second chakra by itself.
Okay.
But technically, when it works with your system, it is an intersection because your element of water is in a different place than mine.
But conceptually, have we done 1 + 1, or have we done something that's multiplication or exponential? What just happened here?
Exponential, I feel. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is sort of a return, right? So like we just had the intersection and we had a whole discussion about how that intersection of poisonous water and this is sort of saying return to the very base, like the very, very base state of the second chakra. Go back to the very, very beginning of intuition and emotion and just concentrate on that first little drop, that little bloop, just that little.
So really, really looking at the first impetus of realization and actualization when you come into contact with an experience or an idea.
Yeah, and I think it's here because what you need to do and be sure of is your own gut emotion, your own gut intuition, like that very clear inner water. Don't let it be poisoned, right? Don't let it be clouded. And if it is, return back to the fresh source.
How do we recognize within ourselves when we're at the fresh source? How do we know if we've been contaminated or not?
I mean, part of it comes from aligning chakras, right? Part of it comes from being in alignment with yourself, being safe and secure, right? Where are we that we're safe and secure, that we can let this water spring out of the earth, right? Where's the groundedness that we have that we can then say, okay, I am a spring of intuition. I'm a spring of emotion.
Something that wanting to leap out from my intuition is that one of the important questions to ask as far as a quote unquote purity test goes, if the action, decision, idea, concept, choice, if it has to happen, at least be aware of who is advantaged and who is disadvantaged and how and why you're okay with all that. And then consider whether or not whatever you were considering needs to go forward. Because I think that for the most part, maybe I'm being optimistic. I don't think I am. I think people for the most part really don't want to purposely harm people. And if they see their actions as in some way helping others. They don't want to contextualize it as harming. For example, when religious people are homophobic towards gay people, they see it as trying to redirect gay people towards paradise, and they see it as, being honest and being helpful. They don't want to see it as being harmful and hurtful, even though it is. Be honest with your intentions. Be honest with the situation at hand and the information at hand. Are you harming anybody? Or if you don't want to hear the word harm, are you disadvantaging somebody? Okay. And if so, in what way? And why are you okay with that?
This is the clearest representation of in small groups, in one-on-one, humans are good to each other. If someone is next to you and they start to stumble, you instinctively reach out and stabilize them. You don't think about it. You just do it. If someone is drowning, you help them out of the water, right? If someone is injured, you go to them and see what you can do, and you call 911. And when you're one-on-one with people are inherently good to each other. There's a social bond in our genetics, right? That we go about. But then you get into cultures and religions and beliefs, and that's where, when you get into larger groups, now there's the other. Now there is a less human thing, and the Good Samaritan parable is perfect for this, because everyone passed the injured person by because of rules. Rules said that they couldn't help them, but the Good Samaritan didn't do anything all that special. They were just like, oh, there's a human and they need help. I'm going to help them. And they didn't let rules or castes or divisions or othering get in the way of that. They were just there. And this is, I think, the problem with our context is that when you imbibe from the same thing and it becomes poisonous, you don't know it, right? That's the way poison works. If you just poison someone initially, the body will reject it. You'll throw it up, right? And you're saved. But when you're given small amounts over a long period of time, it builds up and you don't realize that you've been poisoned. Mm-hmm. And so this is sort of saying, go back to that first ripple. What is truly in your gut? What is truly in your emotions? And what's it activating? What emotions is it activating? Where are you resonating? And be aware of that.
Filter out the influences and become aware of what's true to you.
Like, if it activates your disgust, it's probably othering, right? If you're watching something, it activates your disgust. Oh, that's disgusting. That's abhorrent. It's probably playing on your sense of others, your sense of being different and removed from someone else. And watch that. Like, what emotion is it playing on? Your sense of oneness or togetherness? Is it playing on your sense of community? Like, what emotion is it activating, and how is that affecting your view of what's happening? And it's easy to be mad. It's very easy to be mad. Mad's a simple emotion. And why though? Why does this creator want to make you mad? Why does this content make you mad?
What are they gaining by you responding?
Yep.
Generally speaking, it's clicks, attention, time on video, whatever. They're being paid in some small way. What's interesting is, for the most part, content creators don't make a lot of money off their channels. I mean, there's some people who do better than others, but really they're doing their best to generate all these feelings in you for fractions of pennies, in the hopes that those fractions of pennies will add up to be dollars. But it really, when you think about it, it's really kind of cheap, isn't it? You're Your response to whatever the content is worth fractions of pennies to these people, literally. So it seems to me that our feelings should be more valuable than that. So is my response worth more to me than fractions of pennies? And if so, then don't give that time and energy to whoever wants the fractions of pennies.
So it's a return to purity is a tough word. I'm not sure that's the word that I want here, but a return to the element. Authentic, yeah. A return to the elemental nature of things.
Yeah.
Before it becomes a mixture, before it becomes a concoction, what is the root elemental state of this spring of water? Because I think it springs forth from the earth. It is from a place of safety and security that you operate. A lot of times emotions are designed to uproot your sense of safety. They're designed to make you feel like you're adrift.
Well, the two most powerful emotions, I think, are love and fear. And so if they can trigger fear, then they've gotten their fractions of pennies. Fear
is below the second chakra. Fear is the first chakra. So if you can be afraid, it unroots you. And now you're malleable because now you're just swimming in emotions.
Yep.
And they can resonate, right? Like earth resonates, right? Earth as an element resonates. It has a frequency, but water is receptive. And that's why I like it for the second chakra, because it's very, very receptive. Although metal for you has that same receptivity. In fact, sound waves travel much faster and much further in metal than they do in water. But they do travel quite a distance in water. Yeah. Water is very receptive to resonance.
Well, but the symbol is good either way, either system. What you just said about ripples, though, you know, it's a common image, so it's not like I'm being brilliant here or whatever, but just recognize that this moment will not exist only in this moment. So what you send out is consequential.
And where you give your attention, you support more of this content. You see more of this content. I came across a stereogram last night on Instagram. I love stereograms. They're fun. But it takes me, 30 seconds or so to focus or unfocus rather until I can see it. And now I get stereograms every third or fourth video because I engaged with it and I gave it my attention. Right. And then another one comes up and I love them. So I do another one. And it's a repetitive thing, and the algorithm is going to keep feeding them to me because I spend time with them. And this is why I get so many text posts, because it takes me, I'm dyslexic. It takes me a minute to read. I don't process that as quickly, and I have to reread and so I spend time on a text post, and then suddenly that night, all I have are text posts because I'll have to get a text post and I'll have to quickly scroll away to kind of clear the algorithm and get me back to videos instead of text posts. So there's a reset button that you have to kind of have handy where you have to get down to clarity, right? Water is clear when it doesn't have sediment in it, when it doesn't have other things that taint it. It's clear. And you can see through it, and it can pick up on resonances. And if you're really balanced, right? If you've got good energy in your first chakra and you balance your second chakra, you can feel the tug of emotions, the tug of what's being played against you. Where is it pulling you? And you can feel that clearly, and your intuition will help you understand it and see it clearly. Versus if you're afraid and you're just being tugged in all directions, you can't clearly see or feel the way that you're being influenced.
No, and too much splashing, too many ripples, too many waves. You can't get anything done.
And that's a dangerous place to be, because you can be manipulated from that point. You can be tainted from that point. I think it's time for a mediating card here.
Okay. Deck number 3. That's the pretty deck.
Yay.
The intersections deck. And we'll be using card number 45.
Ooh, way up there.
Way up high in purple. Well, okay, purple and orange. So we're sticking with our feelings. So this is purple, crown, Akasha, ether. I know and how it's impacted by orange, sacrum, metal. I feel. So the way in which your sense of purpose or connection with the universe or morality, how that's impacted by your sensations, your emotions, and your instinct. And this particular deck of mine is, it focuses solely on the intersection. So all you really see is the purple and the orange together with their mandalas. But if you head over to YouTube, you can see how pretty this card is. So sticking with a sense of the instinctual, we're now looking at our sense of place in the universe, our sense of morality, spirituality, connection outward and beyond to whatever is larger than ourselves, and how that is influenced by our feelings and our sensations and instincts. So we're still sitting here trying to rest in this calm water to focus on the one drip that will become the ripple. And I would come back to my question, why? If what you're going to do disadvantages or hurts somebody, why is that okay? Why are you okay with it? So with this sense of morality in play, we're looking at what happens when all this information has come in and you're processing it and trying to make sense of why it is quote unquote good or bad. I would posit that the closest to good is that which causes the least harm. Regardless of who is harmed, we want to cause as little harm as possible. And if it is not good, it is probably because it is doing something to destabilize a lot of people, regardless of their classification. It generally is not good to make life harder for large numbers of people. So then, with that in mind, when you're looking at the choice before you or the information before you, is it fueling something that makes life harder or easier for more people?
I mean, you're speaking moral philosophy, which absolutely drag me along. So you're being very utilitarian here, which is honestly, a lot of people operate utilitarianly without realizing it, because it is very simple when it comes down to it, is do more good than bad, cause less harm than not. It's a simple theory. It resonates because it's easy. Is what you're doing increasing the good or decreasing the bad? Is that what you're doing? And if so, then you are a moral person. You're a good person. And we face a lot of rule people, and there's rule deontologists, and there's things, right? There's philosophical words we can talk about, but there's people that are rule orientated, which say there's always a rule for every situation. And if we follow the rule, we are good. But this goes back to the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan increased the good and decreased the bad. Like, they were very, very simple. They were utilitarian. They didn't follow the rules, right? Everybody else followed the rules. And the rules said, don't help this person. Because, and there's, logic behind why the rule got to be that rule, but that was the rule. And then the Samaritan was like, oh, someone's in trouble. Let's decrease the bad. And it seems so simple. And the trouble becomes for utilitarianism, this is, how do you define good and bad?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you quantify increase and decrease? And therein, lies the trouble of utilitarianism. However, it's a very seductive point of view because it's easy. It's just simple. And people don't like moral philosophy because it often isn't simple.
Well, everything becomes relative.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, a lot of times everything is relative.
Exactly. And I think that's the trouble.
I don't really subscribe to the absolutism that's built into most religious dogmas. I think that context really does matter. When you're looking at situations in our culture today, what I don't understand, for example, I'm just going to give a specific example. I don't understand how it is good for ICE to rip people out of their homes and jobs and deport them. How is that good? And why do people support that? There must be something in that they think is good. So to your point about defining what's good and bad, how is that good when it undermines somebody's...
It's not utilitarian. That's the problem. That these people are operating very much from the rules side. So the rule here is that it's illegal to be in the country without
the proper documentation.
And they go further. It's illegal to take away work from people who are here legally. And of course, they believe that only people that are citizens are here legally, and only those citizens that aren't naturalized, and only those citizens that were born here, but not born of immigrants. They were born as a generational. Their rule gets more and more narrow.
Yeah,
but they're operating from the rules side. So the rules are broken. It's not fair.
Well, but it's not just that the rule is broken. The way they're applying them is inconsistent. So what I see Middle Eastern and Latino people being yanked around.
Well,
I don't see Canadian white people being yanked around.
They have been. Just to be fair, they have been. There were some British and people that got detained for like 2 weeks or something. So it happens. Like it has happened. However, the rule and the other mixed together, and this is where moral philosophy falls apart for the rule people, is that the rules don't apply to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the othering, and the othering is very strong in rule-oriented communities because you need a strong sense of group. And the best way to have a group is to define yourself as not being something. So that's why, I know you hate the word queer, but that's why queer people are easy targets, because they are not the straight cis society. They are the other.
Well, but in that instance, that is how you'd use the word queer.
Mm-hmm.
But that for me, all of that still comes back to, if I were sitting here watching this water drip into my pool, this is not the ripple I would want to send out. I personally don't think that it's better to cause this much pain to people who aren't doing anything wrong. I think part of the issue is that you made the point about rules. If the rule is that it's illegal to be here without documentation, okay, that is the rule. But it's a misdemeanor, and they're treating it like it's a felony, a violent felony.
Because the rule gets to and when you mix rule with other, then you get not that your actions are wrong, or you get that your existence is wrong.
Yeah. And see, but even that, if you're going to be in this quiet pool of water, watching that single drip, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm just being optimistic. I don't think that people can really just dehumanize each other so easily. It's something that has to be done repeatedly across time. It's a habit.
It is. And the problem is that it's very separated. So the people that are rooting it on aren't talking about their neighbor. Some of them have, like some of them have called them on their neighbors. And that I don't I have a very hard time even conceptualizing that, because that feels so evil.
Well, it's like, if you know your neighbor and you even like your neighbor, why would you do that to your neighbor? I mean, okay, so in World War II, people were traumatized and forced, and they did all this stuff, and they would, tell people where Jewish neighbors were hiding. That's how Anne Frank got found. That's under threat of death for knowing and not saying anything. Nobody's threatening to kill you for knowing that you've got an immigrant living next door. Why would you do this?
It plays very much on the rules. There's a sense of community, there's a sense of belonging, there's a sense of rightness, and it all comes down from the rules and following the rules, and this is against the rules, and therefore it should be treated the way it's treated, and it should be rooted out, and somehow that'll make it better for me. There's that part of it that's somehow all this rule following and all of this othering will make it better for me.
So, and I hear you and I agree, but here's some exceptions. If the rule is that you cannot be here without documentation, then why are you going to courthouses and snatching people when they come out of their process for getting their papers?
Because that's more about the other. So we've gone the logic part gets us to a place where we're okay with deportation, and then the othering part pushes that beyond the rule. So we move out of moral philosophy into gut. And I think that's why the second chakra keeps coming up here. Is we move to gut reactions, and the gut reactions to othering is, ew, get it away.
So with this intersection of gut reaction and morality and sense of purpose, I guess, looking back at the other card, the Ace of Waves, examine your gut reaction for a moment. Why do you feel this disgust? Why do you feel hatred or anger? What is the source of these powerful negative emotions, and why do you have them? And are they authentically your reasons, or were they given to you by somebody else? Do you actually, when you think about it, believe what you believe?
We cut off a friend because of BO. I think this is a good example. I cannot stand BO. I have a deep aversion to it. I also have an aversion to the sound of chewing. Like I have some deep aversions to sensory things. It's called misophonia, and it's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. So people that chew with their mouth open, can't hang out with them. Just cannot do it, because it sets off a rage reaction within me. Like, it just, even talking about it right now, I'm getting emotional about it. Mm-hmm. So I can't stand BO, and I have a very othering mentality towards people with BO. And unfortunately, there are cultures that have a very different relationship with body odor than I do. And it's very easy to be like, ew, get it away from me. Mm-hmm. And we had a friend that, and I don't understand this part of gay culture. Don't get it. But there is sort of a group of people that have a viscerally good reaction to body odor.
Right.
And it becomes a kink
mm-hmm. in
certain areas. And he kind of was on the border of that. He was never the best smelling person, but there's a difference between musk and BO. Mm-hmm. Someone can have a musk, and I'm like, okay, they have a musk, right? All right, they got a musk, all right. And then there's just straight up odor, and it got to the point where he had fallen. And that's such a judgmental word. He had moved. He had moved more and more and more over the course of like a year and a half, and he cat sat for us, and the odor that he left on our furniture was so bad we threw the furniture away.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Cause he slept on it, and it just got into it, and it was pleather. So it was actually cotton, and it just soaked it up. Mm. And we tried covering it. We tried Febrezing it. I mean, it was in the dyed. When someone says dyed in the wool, mm-hmm. like this is what they mean. Like cotton mm-hmm. just whoosh, sucked it up. And we really kind of cut off communication, and it wasn't just that alone, but it was so overwhelming to us, and to me in particular, mm-hmm. that it was really hard to hang out, right? Because there was this overwhelming. And so I tell all this, to say that, is it right? Was it morally right of me and my spouse to kind of move away from this person? I don't know. But it was strongly other based. And I bring that up because like it's a real thing. It's a very real thing to have a strong othering mindset at times.
Well, my question wasn't to reject your gut. It was to examine your gut.
Exactly.
And if your gut is right, then fine. In your situation, and I don't think I'm making an apology for you. I think I'm being balanced when I say this. That in a way was him putting his sex on you. I mean, if that's part of his fetish, then he was including you in something that you didn't want to be involved with. I mean, beyond the smell of it, I mean, that's what it's for, is, you know, this particular kink that he has, which is fine if you want to do that. But I mean, when you do that, you're including people within a cloud of your aura of kink. And do you have the right to do that?
The miasma of it.
Yeah, the miasma. So, I mean, do you have the right to let your miasma fall all over people? I mean, I don't know.
It's and this is why moral philosophy is both intriguing and infuriating, because you know we my spouse and I just it ruined our furniture, and that's something that's hard for us to get over.
Yeah, I understand. I had he may still be alive. I had an uncle who was homeless, and he showed up at our house one day, and he stayed for a week, and he was still with us for months after he left. I understand what you're saying.
So what's the morally right thing to do? Now, if he were in trouble, would I help him? 1,000%. I would be at his side the minute he needed something.
Well, but see, this is different then. You haven't cut him off as a person. You've cut him off as a companion. You're not looking at him and saying he's less as a person. You're saying he's a person you don't want to be around. You don't hate him because of his kink. You don't want bad things to happen to him because of his kink. You just don't want him to stain your furniture.
However, if I could make a rule that there is no BO allowed in the world, I would be very strongly tempted to make that rule.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You know, because it's very offensive to me. It's very offensive to me. And it gets to the point where like I'm grossed out by people that smell armpits. I'm like, so I share all this, you know, to point out that there's a very human side of this, and this is what makes moral philosophy so complex. That there's a very human, irrational part to all of this, and the rules I find play into it. They go very hand in hand. I think I've talked about it before. I've showed you, but the Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart. And it has these, you know, morally good people are the ones that follow the rules, and morally bad people are the ones that break the rules. And, you know, then there's the idea of these people, they're sort of in the middle, that they break the rules when they need to, and they follow the rules when they need to. And it sort of aligns with their own interior moral compass. But it's, you know, we call it lawful good. Like they literally call it lawful good, or those who fulfill the law. And that's considered the pinnacle, right? That's where angels are. That's where God is, you know, and unfortunately it's also where Hitler is.
Yeah.
Like this is the same idea of following the rules to their natural conclusion. And this is where like Isaac Asimov's robots are so interesting. I love the book I, Robot. No, not the book I Robot. I think that was the name of the book. Asimov didn't write it. Another writer wrote it, and you just, you know, riffed on Asimov's ideas. And the idea was that the three laws lead to problems if they're followed to their logical conclusion. And then the movie with Will Smith picked up ideas from Asimov, and I do believe from this book too. I don't know if you got credit for it, but I very much believed it from this book. Because the idea of creating this robot that was free of the three laws, that didn't know the three laws, and what laws would this robot pick for itself was kind of the book's intention. The movie didn't play too much into that, but you know, this robot was different in the movie, and it's very simple. Like the reason that Will Smith hates robots is because the robot followed the rules, and the rules were keep humans from harm. It had 2 humans in harm. It did the math. The chances of saving the little girl were infinitesimally low. The chances of saving Will Smith were much higher. So it saved Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to the end of the movie, and again, the chances of saving, and this time the woman, are less than the saving everyone, because it was really a choice between the human and everyone. And the robot at that time makes the choice to save the woman. And it meshes with Will Smith's worldview and his morality. And so it's a good choice in the context of that. But technically, if Will Smith hadn't had his robotic arm and wasn't Will Smith, he very well could have left the world open to evil robots, because he could have died and their plan would have been thwarted. So the woman would have survived, but the human race would not have.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an interesting look into moral dynamics of, do you follow the rules to their natural conclusion, or do you try to put context in? And I think this is why moral theory breaks down, is because theory wants there to be a construct with, even if it's not a construct about rules, it's a construct that has rules. It's a logically complete construct. So even utilitarianism is a logically complete construct, and it breaks down.
Yeah, well, it's all based on comparison, so which tends to be binary.
So, I mean, I think we haven't talked about the I know part of this, but I think we need to get to the I know part of this, which is there's a unique connection, whether you believe in it or not. There's a unique connection between you and whatever lies out there. And it can influence you if you connect to it. And even if it's just the energy of human lives radiating through the cosmos, and it's the dark matter, or what, there is more than we can explain. And we have been able to show that there is an influence that we have on the world. So there's something to connect to out there. No matter if you're just going purely physics and science, and there is no numinous. There is numinous. It's out there. We don't understand it. We've shown that there's pieces of it. There's noise in the data that we can't understand. There's something out there. So the I know part of this, the Akasha, the Crown Chakra, if you connect to that sense of other, right? If you connect to the cosmic ocean, or the souls of everyone alive, whatever you do, connect to God, connect to your higher self, as some people would say, whatever that is, if you connect to that, it removes the other nature of us. It removes that othering nature, and you realize that you are connected to everyone else.
And then you get to ask the question, would I want this for myself?
Yes. And
I think that is a more refined way of looking at what I said earlier. If you instead of asking whether or not this is going to negatively impact other people's lives, put yourself in this position. If this rule applied to you, would it make your life better or worse?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about empathy here.
Yes. We've had a long discussion. I'm going to pull another card to see how we start to close this out. All right. Man, you would think that we make this up, but we don't. I swear we do not make this up. This is the 8 of Waves. Free yourself from the shallows, flow to the source. So we're in the second chakra still. Free yourself from the shallows, flow to the source. I mean, that's exactly
well, but that's what you just said about, connecting to the higher self or God or the broader universe. And the question about, would you want this for yourself, and empathy, that really is just underlining what we just did. It's almost as if we were pulling this. We were talking about this card in order to pull this card.
Yep. Emotional mastery is not stillness. It is the order of cycles and the control of amplitude and frequency. There will always be emotion. Your body is an emotion machine, manufacturing the chemicals that become our emotions. You have a response to everything, and emotions cement these responses into behavior. But you don't have to be what you are just because this is what you have become. It's not okay to destroy relationships and drown the people around you because you just have big emotions. You can learn to free yourself from getting stuck, from carrying too much so that you harm others without knowing it. You can clear your waves and begin to look toward the source instead of the shore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pretty much. That's what we all already said. Next card. No, I'm kidding. It's always interesting when the reading reemphasizes itself. I'm taking this as like a red flag waving around. Empathy, empathy, empathy. At this time when people are angry and upset and destabilized and afraid, empathy, come back to empathy. These are the shallow emotions. You can't really do anything from these shallow places. These are the muddy waters. You have to go out to where it's a little bit deeper and find the stillness. I think that's what your card was saying. And if you're over here in the shallows, splashing around in fear and greed or anger, these are shallow emotions. They are first reactions to instantaneous responses in incidents. They don't have the type of depth that allows for context. Okay, so something happens, now you're mad. Okay, well, come back away from that. Once you can stop splashing around and try to find some context here. It might be a misunderstanding on your part or on theirs or on both. Miscommunication happens constantly. So just red flag on the empathy. Empathy.
People who have less give more, right? Like two people that are on the street, one person gets a loaf of bread, they share it. And somehow there's a threshold at which when you have more, you stop giving. You reach a threshold and now you want more.
What's interesting in my personal experience is that when I feel the most unstable financially is when I am most likely to go out of my way to help somebody on the street. And it's for selfish reasons. It's because in those moments, I see the possibility of myself being there. And I do not want that. And I do a lot for the person who happens to cross my path on that day when I'm feeling particularly poor. And they end up being better off. But I'm trying on some level to make sure that I've got a repository of good karma, because I don't want to be homeless, and I'm bipolar, and the men in my family get very crazy, and it's like two of my uncles have been homeless. It's like I don't want to be homeless. So it's like as much as I can, I help homeless people, specifically for the selfish reason of karma. But when I'm more comfortable, I don't tend to see them. So to your point, when I have less, I'm more generous. When I have more, I don't know if I've ever had enough where I've wanted more upon more, but when I am comfortable, it just doesn't occur to me. So it's selfish on my part, but I don't know. It's how I'm wired.
I mean, it's how we're all wired in the end. Like, as one-on-one, we're good people. When we start to make groups, we start to make rules, when we start to have lawful order, we lose the ability to sort of know in our gut what's right and what's wrong and operate from that level. And the feeding someone is a simple, issue. That's simple. Yeah. Feed them, right? Clothe them, house them. That's simple. But then we get into all these rules. Who's worthy of it? Who gets it and who has to pull themselves up? at what level are you in enough need that you get the money that we've extracted from other people?
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that except empathy.
Yeah, we keep coming back to it. Let's do our final card.
Okay, so the third card will be going back to the professions, the literal professions. We'll have card number 3. This is first chakra. This is going to be red, earth, Muladhara, I am, and how it's impacted by yellow, fire, belly, solar plexus, I do. So how your sense of self, stability, health, wellness, identity, how all that's impacted by what you do and the choices that you make. So I profess that I am the architect who builds my life. I profess that I am the architect who builds my life.
I mean, I love this because we've been talking about imbibing and being in, resonating, being influenced. And this is just a clear-cut reminder that at the end of the day, you are responsible. You're responsible for what you feel, for the actions you take, for what you believe, for how you build your life.
Yep. It's all on you, baby.
We have a members only Patreon. It's patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. You can get access to our extended episodes where Jack and I talk about what the reading meant to us, what we personally take away from it, and just get an extended episode out of it. YouTube is Show Your Deck on YouTube. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm 49 Haiku. So the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU. On the intrawebs list, that would be 49haiku.com. And on Instagram, that is at 49haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. We do have an Instagram for the show. It's at your deck, and we will say goodbye.